Now, if you're willing to live with some restrictions to normal private pilot privileges, you don't have to go to a designated aviation medical examiner, an AME, every few years to get an aviation medical. And you can do this by operating under a set of rules known as BasicMed. BasicMed allows pilots to fly without holding a current FAA medical certificate, but there are some conditions. So let's talk about them. First, there are some basic aircraft limitations. You think they want you flying something like this without a current medical certificate? Well, maybe not. So for you to operate under BasicMed, your aircraft has to be certificated with no more than 7 seats. Well, what if you fly a 9-seater? Well, you can't just take 2 seats out of the 9-seat aircraft and qualify to operate under BasicMed. The aircraft has to be legally limited by its design to 7 or fewer seats. BasicMed also says you cannot have more than 7 people in the aircraft, including the pilot. In addition, the aircraft must have a maximum certificated takeoff weight of 12,500 pounds or less. With those limitations in mind, it doesn't matter how many engines the aircraft has, whether they're piston or turbine, what the horsepower is, whether it has retractable gear or is pressurized. In fact, it doesn't even have to be an airplane at all. It could be a helicopter. You can also fly either VFR or IFR up to and including 18,000 feet. And you can fly at 250 knots indicated airspeed or less. It's important to note that it is okay if the aircraft is capable of flying faster than 250 knots, but you can't exceed 250 knots if you're operating under BasicMed. So, to recap, you get 7 seats in the aircraft, 7 people in the aircraft, including yourself, and up to a 12,500 pound aircraft. Plus, you can fly at 18,000 feet and lower and 250 knots indicated airspeed or less. Now, one thing to note is that the flight cannot be operated for compensation or hire, even if it's a biplane doing sightseeing tours. But flight instructors can provide flight instruction for hire using the BasicMed rules for their medical qualification. And DPEs can perform practical tests as long as the aircraft they're instructing in meets all of the BasicMed requirements. Finally, you cannot use the provisions of BasicMed for flights outside of the United States unless the country you're going to specifically allows it. But under BasicMed, you still have the private pilot privileges of flying in furtherance of a business, sharing flight expenses with passengers, conducting search operations, and you can even act as a safety pilot.